Welcome, everybody. Season 7 of the GOAT format War League is upon us, and I have two of the league's top competitors here today with me to do a little bit of a preseason preview of all of the 26 teams that we have signed up and where we think we're going to place this year. So, with me today, I have Shifty, defending champion of the Bones Generation. Say hi to the good people.
Hey guys, what's up?
Really appreciate you being here. If you did not catch my interview with Shifty and the rest of the Bones Generation squad, definitely check that out earlier on in the YouTube channel. And also with me today, I have the part of the runner-up team Damage Sep from Season 6, Goolahz.
Hey everyone, hi to the good people, hi to the bad people as well. We gotta shout them out as well.
Very, very true. And Goolahz is fresh off of a massive victory at GOAT Grand Prix Atlanta from this past weekend, getting his World Championship qualification for the year. How you feeling after that big win, Goolahz?
And man, I feel on top of the world. That was my first actual tournament win, so it's definitely gonna be one in the books to remember.
Awesome, awesome. Great to hear it. And yeah, like I said, two of the top competitors here in War League, and I'm sure you guys are going to be looking to run it back in the case of Shifty and maybe even go all the way this season for Goolahz and Damage Step. So without further ado, just to give you guys a little preview of kind of what we're going to be doing here, in front of us I have the 26 preliminary rosters. These are not exactly finalized, but I do think they are very, very close, plus or minus a couple of people. And we're just going to be running through all of these, giving you guys a lowdown as to the teams, how they did last year, any new acquisitions or major departures, and then both Shifty and Goolahz are going to be constructing their very own tier list of where they think all of these teams are going to place this season. So to make it a little bit less nebulous, I have clearly defined each of our four tiers that we're going to be placing these teams into. Let me know if you guys have any questions here, but basically what we're going to be doing is S tier, cream of the crop. These are our title contenders. These are the guys who, if at the end of season 7, they're the ones lifting the championship trophy, you would not have been surprised as of today going into the season. A tier, going to be the playoff teams, ones that you would be, very surprised if they did not make the playoffs, but also maybe not exactly the top tier that would be hunting for the championship. Hopefully, pretty straightforward. BT here, these are going to be the wild card hopefuls. These are the ones that have a shot of making the playoffs, but definitely you wouldn't be too surprised if they ended up missing out. And then C tier is going to be those ones where, likely some newer teams or newer players where they're not really expected to make the playoffs here, just trying to learn and get better. Sound good, guys?
Yep.
Yeah,
Awesome, awesome. So let's head on right in here. And these are going to be in alphabetical order. So we're going to start off, of course, 13th Grave. So this is, of course, Shifty's team here for Season 7. And now, interestingly, I want to preface this with our Season 6 champions, the Bones Generation, are doing a very, very interesting thing here with their strategy for Season 7, in that they're actually breaking up their starting roster into two sister teams, picking up some new talent to fill out the rest of the spots. But basically, the Bones Generation as a single team is no more, and now we have two different orgs, the 13th Grave here, and then the Skull Sovereigns, who we'll look at later. Shifty, what are your thoughts there? Why did you guys decide to do this, and how do you think it, affects your chances of a back-to-back title here in Season 7?
yeah. So historically, we've always submitted two teams throughout all the seasons besides last season. Last season was the only time we submitted one, and that was purely because a lot of the players were unavailable. So it actually worked out in our favour. So we got together, we won the title, so that's great. And then we decided it was a bit too easy winning the title, so let's just split it up and give the other teams a chance.
Yeah, makes total sense to me. Yeah, love it. Yeah, so it looks like we got 5 returning members from the Bones Generation here, Shifty including yourself, as well as 13th Grave Captain going to be Godot here this year. In terms of the rest of the players, yeah, Pike Freak, Xavies, and Ike Mangelo, aka Rete. All, of course, defending champions. Rete, also notably, was also the Season 6 MVP tournament winner. Despite not having the best record out of all of the players, did very much show up there in the MVP tournament, so we all know how skilled that duelist is. And then you've got some new pickups. HNVB, I guess, isn't entirely a new pickup. I think it was always kind of part of the Bones org, but maybe we'll actually be doing some dueling this
Yeah.
time. And then you have a couple new faces as well. So Shifty, if you want to give us kind of a lowdown on what you think here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we'll come to the second team, but I want to say I think this is probably the weaker of the two teams. I think the other team is stronger, but obviously with this team, we've got the 5 returning members, like you said, and the new players. Obviously, HMVB. He was actually our 9th player last season. He did a lot of the planning, so we've added him on, and he's back ready to play. Dark Honest as well. I've seen him throughout the World League history, and I've always been very impressed with his gameplay overall, and he brings something new to the team dynamic. He can play rescue card. He plays a few other decks as well, and he's got a great personality. Recently, we just played the Bones Internal, and I played him in grand finals, and he beat me. So I'm kind of salty about that, but I'm glad he's on my team. And Gangster Bro, I don't think he needs any introduction. He's been grinding it out past couple of years now, and he's done very well. I think last year he got 2nd place in FLC as well, so very consistent turbo player. That's to round up the roster.
Awesome. Yeah, and if you had to, of course, being as unbiased as possible, choose which tier you think these guys are going to fall into, including yourself, where would you put them?
I mean, S tier. If we could talk about title contenders, it's any team that I'm on. I always believe I'm going to win. So I'm going to say S tier.
Not surprised at all there. Goolahz, what do you think? As someone who just recently played against most of this team in the finals of War League in season 6, what are your thoughts on the roster overall, and where do you think they'll end up this season?
I think I echo a lot of the same sentiments as Shifty. I do think that this is the weaker of the two teams, but at the end of the day, this is a very powerful team. Red A didn't have a strong record, but he won the MVP tournament, so anyone on this team is definitely very capable. Same with Gangster Bro, not the strongest season, but he's a well-known name in the scene. Dark Honest, I actually have a lot of experience playing with because I was actually a member of the Underdogs, which was the team prior to Promise Kings. And he's just a very strong, versatile player, super nice player, great to get along with. And I think he's a good addition to your team. Yeah, I mean, this can definitely be a strong team. I'm not sure if they're going to make the run back necessarily, but I think at least playoff teams for sure.
Awesome. So S tier for Shifty, no bias at all, of course. And then we got an A tier out of Goolahz, definitely pretty close. And yeah, I think would be very surprised to see this team at least make the playoffs for sure. So makes sense to me. All right. Moving on here, second team up, we have Bads. This is one of our 2 nearly all Greek teams. They were a top 8 team last time, making it into the playoffs, but then getting eliminated in the quarterfinals. Some very, very talented duelists here overall, but I do want to point out a pretty major departure. Confusere, one of their top players from last season, Chaos Control Specialist, I believe is sitting this season out. They've replaced them with Kif, who I believe is new to War League, but at least from what I've heard, is definitely a very solid duelist, but definitely some big shoes to fill there. Guys, what do you think about Bads and their chances here this season?
Yeah. Definitely. I've always felt like the Greek teams do a really good job of having strong depth to their team. There's usually not. In this case, I would say Kapitanicus is their star player, but overall they're all above 50% for the most part. I think they'll do a good job of definitely beating a lot of the weaker teams, and they'll have a lot of versatility in their repertoire. I think losing Confusere is quite a big of a hit, though. I felt like he was always the anchor player playing that solid chaos control list, and I think just having that gap in the list could be a potential issue. But I would not be surprised if they did make playoffs. I think they're going to be more of a wild card contention team this season, though.
Sounds good. So our first B tier team of the day here out of Goolahz. Shifty, thoughts?
I pretty much agree with what Goolahz just said. I mean, with the Greek teams, I think I don't think they ever expected both the Greek teams to make playoffs last season. So that was a huge accomplishment. Doing it again, it's going to be quite difficult because we'll see the rosters throughout, and the competition is very stiff this time as well. The star player is Capitanasius, it seems, and Confuser, obviously with that great record, has left and replacing him with Kif. I've seen his name crop up a few times in the Academy League. Don't know too much about him. But overall, a decent team, I would say. Wild card, definitely wild card potential.
Awesome. All right, two B tier teams here. Yeah, makes sense to me. Thank you very much, guys. All right, moving right along. Yeah, definitely excited to see how Bads and Nemesis, the other Greek team, does this season, with some pretty big departures, but definitely tons of talent in the region. Next up here, I think we got a completely brand new team. I'm going to guess by the name that is a French team. Going out on a limb there. Maybe is incorrect. But yeah, do either of you guys know any of these players or have any intel on this new team here to War League?
Yeah, Baguette Control. Yeah, I'm gonna assume they're French. And I think there is a French server. They have been trying to increase the popularity and the scene around in the French nation. I did reach out to the captain actually just to get some information, but there was no response, and I do not recognise a single name on this roster, so I cannot give any feedback. And just a disclaimer, I do apologise if I've put anyone where they lower than they believe. It's just my personal opinion, and I'm just trying to be objective as possible.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, prefacing this whole video, this is all in good fun, right? We know the whole league is filled with very, very talented duelists. Anyone can end up in any position, right? But yeah, these newer teams that aren't nearly as well known as some of the other big names. Of course, we would be very excited to be surprised, but without any further intel, it's hard to place them higher than C tier. Goolahz, anything you'd like to add there, and where do you think this team will end up?
Yeah, unfortunately, I just don't know any of these players, and like you said, it's an extremely tough league this season, so it's pretty hard to place them anywhere. I think the only French player I actually know is Dingosig, which means they do have like world championship caliber players in their nation, right? So maybe some of these guys can surprise us, but until we actually see it in action, I have to put them in the C tier like Shifty did.
Makes sense. Makes sense. A little foreshadowing there with Dingo Sig for our next team, but yeah, definitely excited to see some new blood here in the league. And best of luck to Baguette Control this year. Hope they prove us wrong and make a playoff berth. But for now, they are a solid C tier team. All right, moving on. A team near and dear to my heart. I'm not on the roster. I got dropped for Pikatron, which is totally fair, but I am still part of the team. I'm the ninth player, I guess you would say, as Shifty said earlier. But yeah, the Battle Oxen here. So this is a returning team. They placed 8th in their conference last season, so missed out on the playoffs with a 4-6 record. They are at least predominantly an Atlanta-based org. But definitely this season are just keeping kind of the core from last season, the Atlanta folks, and then building around it with folks from all over the place. So as Goolahz mentioned previously, former world championship Dingosig is a new pickup here. I don't believe he's new to War League, of course, but definitely sat out the last season. And then some other major pickups from some of the other deprecated orgs there with Masha from Promise Kings, Pikatron as mentioned from 400s, and Majo Sam from Goated Dawn. You can see the departures here on the right. A lot of those local Atlanta players who just either didn't want to or decided not to come back here for Season 7. Guys like Confusion's Cap, Raven's Anger, Cypher, these are all local Atlanta players. Easy to Slay You, I think, is a big name who's picked up in the kind of like mid-season free agency period last year, but has moved on to another team, but definitely a big miss. Maybe not in terms of records since he was only there for half the season, but definitely a very solid duelist. So yeah, Goolahz here. What are your thoughts on Battle Oxen and their hopes? Will they be a playoff team even though they missed out last season? How do you feel about the new additions, etc.?
Yeah, definitely. This is a team that's pretty dear to my heart as well. I have a ton of friends on this team, so I'm going to try to be as unbiased as possible. But I would say this is definitely a step up overall just from their previous roster. I think a lot of these players have gotten better from the prior season, and they've been experimenting with a lot more decks. I think the addition of Dingosig and Pikatron is pretty huge in this regard. Both excellent players and definitely can tip the scales in their favor. They are going to miss Raven's Anger. He had a fantastic season last season, but I think this team can make the playoffs this year, so I'm going to put them in the A tier.
Shifty, anything to add there? What do you think about this team's chances this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think Kerem as the captain, he's done a fantastic job. He's trying to create something special. And it's quite hard to do that because every team is kind of established. There's a lot of established names out there, so it's kind of hard to break into it and attract that player base. But I think in this transfer window, I think he can be proud of himself. He's got some great pickups. Obviously, Dingo Sick is a world champion. I'm not sure what his role is going to be. Is he going to be playing as often as like every week? I'm not sure. Pikatron, I think he's going to be playing every week, and he's obviously one of the standout players from one of the upcoming rookies from last year. So he's a great addition. Yeah, I think overall it's a good team. It's going in the right direction. And I'm going to say, just because of the quality of the league in general, I think I'm going to put them in the wild card, hopefully.
Fair enough. Yeah, it definitely makes sense. And I think, yeah, some important context for this season as well, right? We've gone up from 22 teams in season 6 to 26 this season with the same number of playoff spots, I believe. So the competition for those 10 playoff spots is going to be even stiffer than it was last season. Just to add a little bit of context to what Goolahz and Shifty have been saying about how competitive the league is going to be this time around. Moving right along, we've got Birdcage, another returning org, 5th in their conference, barely missed out on the playoffs last season with a 5-5 record. Lots of returning players, but lots of departures as well. Kind of maybe a rebuilding year, but they have kept a very, very solid core of GBO, Oops of Cow, and Kit, all with 4+ wins last season. Some big departures here, Grumple as well as Corinna, two very, very solid format veterans. Shifty, I believe you're up first this time. What are your thoughts on Birdcage and them running it back here in season 7?
Yeah, I think overall it looks weaker on paper because obviously they've lost some of their key pieces, Grumps and Karina to be specific, and they've added Little Mist and Guacomo Latta, which I'm not familiar with those names, so I'm not too sure what they are. The pickup of Nasty Beast 96 is fantastic. One of my UK brothers. He's an excellent player, and he's a champion as well. So overall, I think I'd probably say they're weaker than last season, and for that reason, I'm going to put them in the wild card tier.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Sweet. Yeah, they were definitely very much in the hunt for playoffs last time, so would not be surprised to see them kind of right on the bubble here once again. Goolahz, thoughts on these guys?
Yeah, I kind of am in the same boat. I think overall they are a bit weaker than last time, losing Karina, losing Grumple, losing Jaxhorn, and King Snail. I mean, like, these are all very good players, and it's going to be tough to fill in those gaps. I don't know a lot about Little Mist, I'm sorry, Giacomo. I'm not 100% sure on these players either, so I don't know what their full capabilities are. I think NB96, like you said, he's a champion. He's a very good player. I don't know what the exact usage will be. It looked like he only played two games last season, so if the usage is similar, I don't know how reliable the addition can be. But if he's playing actively, he can definitely be a strong asset. GBO had an extremely strong finish in the MVP tournament. He's a strong player, definitely could continue to carry this team. But I'm gonna have to agree with Shifty. It's gonna be a C tier for me, or a B tier.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Moving on, another returning team. We've got the Blackluster Serbs, our Serbian team. They finished last season 1-9. I believe it was their first season in the league. So lots of new players, lots of new faces. 11th place in the conference. But do have a nice, solid returning core of players here with Lavanuk, Wondermaker, as well as Pops, who did have a winning record last season. Outside of those three, though, looks like a bit of a roster revamp. They've dropped 4 players and added in, 5 new ones. So keeping the core, but revamping some of the maybe substitute players. Goolahz, thoughts here?
Yeah, it's super great to see a lot of these local players and foreign players to join the War League. It's a great opportunity to develop skills, and it's definitely very exciting to see them in action. I think one of the main issues though is I don't know how easy it is to just go straight from playing IRL only in a very controlled metagame to be playing against the top players in the world. And from my understanding, I know that a lot of these players play a lot of interesting decks. I know Luke is a fan of Last Turn. Wondermaker plays his Stein Brew, and I believe Pops was a Reasoning Gate player. So I think maybe not having the core fundamental warrior and turbo players could definitely be a struggle for these teams. So I'm gonna have to make them playoff unlikely, at least for the time being.
Yeah, no, totally fair. Yeah, and newer team last season, still basically an almost fully rookie roster again this season. So good opportunity for them to get a lot of experience, but definitely, yeah, see where you're coming from there. Shifty thoughts?
Yeah, 100% agree with what Goolahz just said. I mean, props to them. They're sticking to it. They didn't have a good season, obviously, the first season, and they're sticking to it, and they've trying to get some new, fresh faces in. Um, I think, I think if they're sticking, if these are all Serbian players, I think limiting your player base to just Serbian players, and it's a small nation in itself, is you kind of shooting yourself in the foot. So, yeah. Yeah, overall, I can only put them in the C tier. Unlikely to make playoffs.
Sounds good. Yeah, and I do with some of these like regional, bands of local players. There is often like a language barrier aspect to adding new players. For example, like I know Nemesis was looking for some free agents in the offseason, but they like their entire team Discord and chat is all in Greek, right? So if you don't speak Greek, you're probably not going to be a great pickup. So just to add a little bit more context as to why it can sometimes be hard for these regional orgs to find new talent, right? Because you're kind of limited to folks from your nation or at least who speak the language. But yeah, definitely excited to see Blackluster Serbs in their second straight season here and how much they can grow season over season. Thank you guys. Now for a big one here, we've got Bomb Squad, a top 4 contender returning team, but a little bit of shake-up action here. Jay Harris, 88, the captain. We've got some returning players with some very, very solid records from last season. Michele Cimino, of course, top player. Dale as well. Generally doesn't play in the regular season as much, but always comes out and performs in the playoffs and did in season 6. And then Tupale here, aka Biff Ilsig Panico, I think is their dueling book tag. Very powerful warrior player. And they've also managed to pick up some very, very big names from some of the other kind of defunct orgs. Don't Copy from Rico Act, our season 5 champions, very skilled Italian player. STL Killer, one of the historical great warrior players, of course. And then AJT, BLS, and Mercenary, also two very, very solid players, even if they did not have the strongest season 6 on Unknown. But they also lost some very, very powerful duelists as well. Two big names that jump out to me, of course, here El Duelista Dex, 7 and 5, one of the biggest grinders of GOAT format right now. You'll see him on the format ladder, or for my library ladder, pretty much at all hours of the day. Trishula as well, very historic, well-known name, well-known player in GOAT format with a very, very solid record last season. So a couple big losses, but also some big pickups. Interested to see how the team chemistry plays out here. Shifty, how do you feel about these guys?
Yeah, I mean, wow, what a roster! If you just look at it on paper, it's just fantastic. So great job to the Bombs organization on pulling this off. Jay Harris, obviously, is top 8 worlds. Was it? I think it was last year. Mr. Balls himself, another fantastic Italian player. Don't Copy, one of the best deck builders in my opinion in the game right now. SDL Killer, one of the best players in 2022. Dale needs no introduction. He dominated 2005s when in the original GO format. Tupal is also solid. AJ TPLS. I mean, 3-time FLC champion speaks for himself. And Mercenary, also a very good and consistent turbo player. Yeah, super awesome squad. I'm very excited for this squad. See what they can do. I'm just a bit curious about how they're going to rotate and how they're going to manage the players' egos.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see how they do that. And I think it's safe to say they are definitely a title contender.
Yeah. Yeah, Shifty, very good point there. You can only start 5 players every week until the playoffs. So with, all 8 players that would probably be shoo-in starters on almost every other org in the league. Going to be really interesting to see how they rotate, like you're saying, but definitely tons of talent on this team and excited to see how they turn out here in Season 7. Goolahz, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think putting these guys anywhere other than title contenders would just be an objective mistake. I think they're just very skilled players, very talented players. But I do want to preface something. Um, I don't think star power is everything to this game. I think there's a lot of strategy involved in the week to weeks. I think this team, I can see them honestly just playing 5 turbo every week, and that could potentially be a potential weakness for sure. And managing these players and making sure that egos are in check and making sure that everyone gets the playtime they want before any issues happen is going to be essential. And at the same time, some of these players, while they're very talented, they are doing a few other things, right? They're playing Edison, they're playing Lorcana, they're playing like other games. They've got families that they're working on. So there is an aspect of maybe not 100% focus or dedication, uh, at least initially. But I think these guys are extremely talented. I think they can overcome it. But if I think they will be title contenders for sure. But if they don't make the titles, make the playoffs, I could also see that being like a situation as well.
Yeah. So very high highs, potentially low lows, volatile. Definitely one to keep an eye on as the season progresses. Moving on, another very solid, another top 4 team from last year, or from last season, I should say, Bug Catchers. I think they overperformed a lot of people's expectations in the regular season. They were the 1 seed going into the playoffs. Of course, very, very talented players on this squad, but lots of turnovers season over season. Look at these big names that they're missing out on. Matt Uber, Bugcatcher Rose, Betchy, Morp, Rev, all very, very talented players in their own right, and all have left the org. They do, of course, have some returning members here: Planchy, Aiko, xCloud, Shogun, or sorry, not Shogun Lopez, Alex Deman, all very, very talented players. But some new faces here as well. Sui, I think David is like a online like ladder grinder that they picked up. Shogun Lopez and Not So Fast, of course, have been around the scene for a while. So a team of very, very recognizable and solid names, but lots and lots of turnover. Goolahz, how do you think these guys will end up this year?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat as what you said. I think they did overperform a little bit, but they were the 1 seed, so it's kind of hard to knock them down. I think losing Betchy and Matt Uber is definitely, and Jose is going to be quite a hit, because I would say those were the 3 primary star players, and just having Matt Uber being the diversification of all their assets, like their sole non-turbo player was pretty essential, from preventing their opponents from completely preing against this team. And I don't know why, I just get this hunch that the team is just going to be in wild card this season. I think losing those players is definitely going to be a hit, and that's just my initial impression.
Cool. So bug catchers are a B tier team now, you're saying?
Yeah, I think so.
Sounds good. Shifty, that's quite the take there from Goolahz. Do you agree? Do you disagree?
Yeah, this one is probably the hardest one for me to decide what to do with them, because I keep going back and forward on them, because obviously they had that great run last year. But looking at it, well, I never realised they lost a big core of their team with Betchy, Jose, Matt Uber, and even Morpado. So they've lost a lot of star players there. Coming in is David. I'm not familiar with him. Alex the man. He was an Edison player, and he was supposed to show some promise, but I think I don't know if he just got inactive. They got Shogun Lopez. Obviously, I've worked with him before. He's a great player overall. And obviously not so fast. He's also another one of my brothers who he was supposed to be in one of our teams, but we were actually full, so we couldn't actually fit him inside. Yeah, I don't know. I've just got a bad feeling about this, so I'm gonna say hopefuls.
B tier again. All right. So Bugcatchers with a lot to prove here going into Season 7. 1 seed in the playoffs last season, lots of shakeup. People not so confident on them, but of course they could prove us wrong. Lots of talent. We'll see how it ends up. Moving on, Degeneration X, another returning org. I do want to point out, by the way, we have so many returning orgs season over season, which I think is really, really cool. Lots of new teams as well, so plenty of potential storylines to follow. So Degeneration X here, they were 6th in their conference with a 5-5 record on kind of the wild card bubble. One more win and they probably make it in. Lots of continuity season over season. There are some players who dropped out, but if you take a look at those records there, not really any, records that are really, I'm sure they're all good duelists in their own right, but not any records really lighting the world ablaze. So it seems like Jared and co, the plan is let's cut some of the players that maybe weren't working out so well, but keep the core of the team intact and add in some veterans, honestly, here in DGZ and Carl Waite. And maybe they're hoping to make a run for the playoffs here with potentially an improved roster. Shifty, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, DX have done a great job considering they picked up 2 veteran players, like you just said, for the B team, for Damage's B team. So they've picked up 2 very good players, and as you highlighted, the people that have left all had negative records. So those 2 veterans, obviously Colway and Rampage, will definitely bolster the attack. And if they were 5-5 last season, maybe those 2 guys can push them up to a 6-5, which could put them in a wildcard running. So I think it's fair to put them in the wildcard tier.
Yeah, definitely makes sense to me. Goolahz, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I like the pickups. I think Carl Waite and DGZ will add a lot to the team. I think some of these records can be a little bit deceptive. I know Oracle has been putting in a lot of work. He just got top 4 at the 3v3, I believe, and Templi just he recently beat me in tournament at one of the PWCQ. So I can definitely see this team being a lot stronger than it was last season. I think they're knocking on the door of playoff contention, but I think they're going to be at the top of wild card for me for now. But I can definitely see them being a playoff team, and I think a lot of these guys are going to improve just through the system that we have. So I think initial impressions, wild card hopefuls, but definitely knocking on that playoff door.
Really good point that you made there, Goolahz. I feel like we hype up a lot of these players, and then you look at their record, and it's like 5-4 or something, right? But it really just goes to show how competitive War League is in terms of Go format players. Like all of the best players, for the most part, are in this league, and even just going positive in a season is such a huge accomplishment. I feel like,
Definitely.
yeah, sweet. So, without further ado, our runners-up from last season, Goolahz's team. We've got Damage Step, captained by MMF. Looks like mostly you guys are just running it back. Of course, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But one very, very major roster shakeup that I do want to point out here. Psychotic is going to be a very big loss here. 8-3 record, maybe just taking a step back from GOAT format here this season. Replaced with Corinna, who, of course, is a very good player in their own right. But Goolahz, any thoughts on kind of the strategy going into Season 7, what the Psychotic loss means to you guys, and how you plan on, filling in those shoes?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, Psychotic is just going to be busy this season, and he just doesn't have the time to commit to War League, which is totally understandable. I think losing him is pretty huge. He was one of our star players, and he was pretty integral to the planning process behind each week. I'm going to miss playing beside him each week. I will say, though, I think overall we've kept the roster pretty much the same, and I think Corinna is a great addition to the team. She's got big shoes to fill from taking Psychotic's spot, but I think she can fill them. I think a lot of our players are continuing to improve, and some of them, I think, probably even had a little bit of an underperformance this past season. I think we can definitely see Ludi explode and take a lot of names and continue to bolster his record. I think prior to this season, I think he was either number 2 or 3 in the finishings, the season 5, and Insidious, just another great name that just was under 500, but we can definitely see him kind of flip that completely and be another key player on the team. I think this is definitely a title contender team, and I think not putting us there would be a mistake.
Yeah, totally fair. No bias, of course, but yeah, I mean, you guys just came in second place. Very, very talented team. I have to agree with you there, to be frank. Shifty, do you disagree?
Um,
Wait,
I
you're
think I
allowed
do
to. You're
disagree.
allowed to.
I, I, you know, it's just I don't know. I mean, they had a fantastic season last season, and the records are. You can see them right there. They're fantastic. All the players are putting work in. Ludi, obviously, he's better than that record. So is Insids. Goolahz had that fantastic season. Bobby Bodega always consistent with Warriors. Even MMF did very impressive. Losing Psycho, obviously, as we mentioned, is going to be a huge loss, and Karina should be able to fill that void. But if we're talking about in my heart, do I believe this team can win? I don't. So I think I'll definitely put them in playoffs in the A tier. But yeah, it's just my heart telling me it's not a title
All
contender.
right. Yeah. Hey, intuition is important. Love to see it. That's why we have multiple panelists here today. And yeah, folks, definitely let me know down in the comments what you think about how these tier lists are shaking up. But yeah, that is a big one out of the way there. Moving on, probably one of the most exciting teams here in season 7. They are a new org, but not a single new face. Elite Four. This is a essentially, I guess, just a combined between two defunct teams, Rico Act, who were the season 5 champions, but I think underperformed last season, getting knocked out in the top 8. Team has dissolved, but kind of their two star players here, Moxies and Ivan, are now forming this new org, bringing on the reigning world champion Alvarado, who sat out last season in War League, but is definitely not new to GOAT format at all. Has been playing it since at the highest level since 2005. And then just some amazing star names here, picking up from the defunct Rampage team as well as Loger from Q4. Shifty, what do you have to say here about what I think a lot of people are calling the team to beat here in season 7?
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement to make. The team to beat for sure. But there's another team which we'll highlight, which I think is a team to beat. But um, yeah, obviously E4 bringing back Alvarado, the world champion himself, one of the greatest planners in the league. So that's going to boost them automatically, and just having him on the roster is going to, yeah, it's going to boost them up. I mean, Ivan told me the formula for this is having 4 super players and 4 mid players. I think I think that's a bit unfair. I think it's more 4 super players, 4 good players. So it looks like a very good formula. I'm just looking down here. Scrub, yeah, Scrub for life, negative record, but he's a lot better than that. And Hurdy Hog, he's probably having one of the best seasons, one of the best years so far. He's coming up with some top results. Um, so yeah, 100% super powerful team, and they will definitely be a title contender for sure.
All right, thank you, Shifty. Goolahz, thoughts on E4?
Yeah, I mean, this is a fantastic team. I think a lot of these guys have won the title before, and for good reason. They're fantastic players, fantastic planners. It's going to be interesting to see who actually gets minutes this season. Um, so I'm curious to see what the five stack will look each week. I think whatever they do, though, it's gonna be a strong stack. Um, I think the only gripe that this team has is I think they're playing pretty standard, but I think out of all the teams that play standard lists, and I think they just do it the best. So I think they're gonna do they're gonna be a title contender for sure.
Yeah, the reason why many of their lists are standard is because they invented the lists, right? So I
Yeah,
guess
exactly.
some important context there, but yeah, definitely makes sense. Both of you guys saying S tier title contenders. Awesome. Moving on here. New org, Fisherman, but once again, some returning faces. This is Flocky's team this season. kind of a little bit of a mix of some of the more defunct orgs as well, picking up players from the pieces there. So a little bit mix of Q4, picked up Geisty as well, very, very solid German Chaos Control player, formerly of Rico Act. Easy to Slay You, I mentioned, formerly of Battle Oxen, has had a very good season so far with his patented Jirai Gumo list, so interested to see how he performs this season in War League. But yeah, Goolahz here. What do you think about these guys and their chances here as a new org, but with a lot of veterans?
I think this is a good team. They've got a lot of good players, like you said. I don't. This is another team where I'm not sure what the total activity is going to be. Uh, I know some of these players took a step back from GOAT and play like other formats nowadays, so it's gonna be interesting what they see what they do. But I think they definitely have a strong roster. It's I'm just curious about the motivations and everything going forward. But I think they're at least a playoff team by far. I think they've got a lot of good players and can definitely make a run for it.
All right. A tier team for Goolahz, Shifty. Same, different.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I mean, on paper, they've got some very, very good players, and it's just going to be interesting who's going to be active and how they're going to manage their resources. Um, yeah, there's not much else to say, to be honest. I mean, they've got very good players. Geisty, obviously, one of the best. Spiral, young Spiral. I think he's not so young now, but he was always a prospect coming up with some fantastic technical play. And obviously, Marcus LOL, he's known to be a sack absorber, so he's gonna be taking all the punches for the team to draw Trinity. So it should be interesting, and I definitely agree with them being a playoff contender team.
Sounds good. All right. Fishermen, double A tier playoff team, but maybe not fighting for the title. But we'll see how this new org does in their first season in War League. Next one up here, our first themed team, I think. So this is Team Goat Control. As the name would suggest, the idea is that these are all players who at least can play Goat Control. I'm not sure. They have said that they're committing to playing it like as an entire team every single week. All five players will be loading up Goat Control. We'll see if they stick to that because, of course, Goat Control in the modern metagame not considered a top tier deck anymore. Shifty, what do you? I guess let's assume that they don't bring Goat Control every single week and actually just try and do some prep for the sake of this video. How do you think this team will end up?
Yeah, I mean, they've got the two key pieces, which is Guillaume and Vogue. Vogue, I think last year he won the 200 player tournament, the one of the Italian tournaments. So those two are very good players. But the problem I see is if they've only got two good players who are getting wins and the other three are losing, then they're not going to pick up any wins. And there's not anyone else I recognise from that team. So I don't have much confidence in this team, to be honest. So I'm gonna have to put them at the playoffs unlikely tier.
That is quite fair. Goolahz, how do you feel about Team Goat Control?
Yeah, no, I agree with Shifty 100%. I'm like the exact same way, and I know Gyammerman, he's known for playing Goat Control, so he's probably gonna end up playing it. And I I know you said not to say that they're gonna play Goat Control each week, but if a lot of the time they are, I just think it's like not a well placed deck in the meta, and I don't know a lot of these players, so I think they're gonna just be playoff unlikely. And I'm gonna just say it outright: if they do play Goat Control each week, I don't think they have any chance at all.
That
I don't believe in I don't believe in theme teams. I think unless you're the theme of the team is like Chaos Turbo, I don't think it's gonna pan out.
that's called bug catchers, Goolahz. And hey, that got them to the one seed. But yeah, to your point, theming around not literally the best deck in the format is probably not exactly a recipe for success. But definitely excited to see if this team is going to stick to that theme that's in their name or not. And either way, how it goes with a lot of with a lot of rookies here coming into the league, how these guys will perform in their first season. Moving on, sort of a themed team. This is it's really funny seeing that all these players are quote unquote new to the league, considering they're all names that I recognize. But this is the new German War League team with some crazy heavy hitters here. Charlie Koch, runner up at the World Championships in the fall. SS95, I think, holds the record for the shortest amount of time between receiving two World Championship invites. Winning GGP Munich last weekend or 2 weekends ago now, and then winning an obelisk the day later to get two Worlds invites within 24 hours. And then some just very amazing players, honestly, overall here. JCVD, of course, storied player in GOATS, return winner. Shout out to him, holding down the coverage in all of the German and European GGPs, generally, and very good duelists, of course, as well. And then Killer, Joker, FBN, OSV, like these are all well-known players in the scene, maybe not so much in War League, but Goolahz, how do you think these guys will do in their first season in War League specifically?
Yeah, I think, like you said, these guys, these are a lot of great players, and they're very good players that can come immediately onto the scene and do something. I will say though, tournament performance and War League performance are not 1-to-1. And I think just having a team where no one has ever, I think some of these guys have played in War League before, but it's been at least one season where they were all completely inactive. And I think just not having the experience of actually being in that environment on the week to week is going to hurt them. I can see them being a playoff team just because of their talent, but I don't think they're going to be a title contender.
Yeah, that seems pretty fair. Completely new team, yeah, like you're saying, but definitely the raw talent to just force their way into the playoffs. Shifty, what are your thoughts on the German super team?
Yeah, I mean, this is probably the team that I'm most excited about, purely because of what I've heard about them. Got Killer 90, sorry, Joker 88. So I've just this information that I've just been given. He was a 2009 national champion for Germany. Fabian, he's topped multiple YCSs. Obviously, SS95, which you highlighted, winning the Obelisk and Munich, and OCV, which should be the OCV 1991. He's also top two GGPs. And return winner and Jean-Claude Van Damme, two former Bones members. So I know them very well. They're some of the best German players around. Very exciting team. I'd love to see what they can do and how the German chemistry is going to work. Is it going to run like a well-oiled machine, or is it going to be breakdown? It's going to be exciting to see. So definitely a playoff potential team for me.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Probably one of the dark horses this season. They probably have the raw talent to go all the way, like you guys are saying, but can they adapt to the league format, the team format? Remains to be seen, but definitely a team to keep an eye on here in season 7. All right, next up here, we got a returning org, Laos Nova. They were 7th in their conference last season, 4-6 record, kind of middle of the pack. A few returning players and a few new faces, maybe a bit of a rebuilding year for them. But similar to some of the teams before, it looks like they've dropped several of the underperforming players and added in, or kept at least the ones with solid records like Evo Dream, the captain, as well as Gunshotty with the 6-3 record. And then added some. I actually do recognize some of these names, but definitely newer to War League. Shifty, thoughts on Laos Nova for season 7?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the third season or second season. I can't recall, but I think the all right Italian team, maybe local players who play together, a group of friends. They just got a 4-6 record last season, just behind the bubble. But yeah, I don't know many of the new players, so I can't really determine how they're gonna, if they have improved it at all. So I think it's fair to assume that they are going in the playoffs unlikely tier.
Fair enough. Yep. It's rookie season, hard to evaluate, of course. Goolahz, do you feel any differently about these guys?
No, I think I'm the same way. I saw that they have Grashish with the 5-1 record. It's especially with just like losing. If you don't know a lot of the players on the team, it's tough to replicate a record like 5-1 with just local players. So it's going to be tough to see them fill that gap. I think I'm in the same way. Playoff unlikely for now.
Sounds good. And yeah, second or third season in a row here, so definitely a lot of room to grow and a lot of room to learn, but excited to see how they perform here. So now, Shifty, I'm going to take a guess and say that unless you were just self-plugging the other Bones sister team, this might have been the other team you were saying that is the team to beat this season. This is the Italian super team here with some absolutely star-studded names. Purple Drunk, YS Bow, former world champ, ignore the record, don't look at that 0-3, but former world champion Ludovico Rizzo, Trishula, Danikasi. I mean, like, these are all some of the best players in GOAT format history, right? The one thing to point out, though, hodgepodge of different players. These are like, gathered from all of the remains of some of the dead orgs, Rico Act, Bomb Squad, 400s. Now, of course, looking at the records, these are generally the top players from these defunct orgs, so they definitely, despite their teams maybe not having the success they hoped for, they had very strong personal seasons in Season 6. But yeah, Goolahz, how do you see the Italian super team here doing in their first season together as, a cohesive unit?
Yeah, this team is just crazy. I mean, everyone here could be a star player on another team, and then I felt like a common theme I had about just like talent in general was what is the commitment to GOAT and what is their availability to play. I feel like I always see these guys in tournaments, and I feel like they're always playing in Italian tournaments IRL. So I doubt there's going to be any motivational issues. So these guys are by far a contender team.
Yeah, short and sweet, love it. Yep. I mean, look at the names, look at the records. Hard to argue otherwise. But Shifty, hot take king. Maybe you can. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, you were right when I believe that there was another so-called best team in the league, and this definitely could be it because it's just star-studded Italian superstars. I think historically Italian teams don't work because I don't know. I mean, a couple of losses and they're just at each other's throats. So it's going to be interesting to see how they can keep it together. Um, Obviously, Purple Drunk. He finally got his FLC championship last year. Always, he's had a lot of second places. Young Sexy Boa, one of the best players in 2021, I believe. Ludo needs no introduction. World champion Trish. Yeah, he made top 8 last year as well. Fantastic turbo player. Danny Cassie as well. He recently won an FLC last year. Anden, I think Anden's one of the most underrated players as well. He's very good, I must say. And obviously Matt Uber to mix it up with the Reason Gate, just to not Reason Gate. I do apologise. The Stein Gate. So obviously teams need to have that in the back of their mind when they're preparing for this team. Yeah, so definitely a star-studded team, and they will be going in S tier.
Yeah, sounds good. Now, to go back to a previous point that we made about some of the other super teams, how, if you are Purple Drunk, if you're the captain, how in the world do you decide your starting roster here? And also notably, like, these are players that like to play every week, like Goolahz was saying, right? Which Goolahz, you said, was kind of a point in their favor because, you don't have to worry about their commitment or anything, but also it might make it harder to decide who to bench each given week because these are players who are used to carrying their teams being the star player. Tons of talent, like we said. Interesting problems to solve, as both of you guys pointed out, but definitely one that we should be keeping our eye on as the season unfolds.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, and it's going to be interesting how they rotate their team and give everyone the playtime that they want. And what I would say is, if I was a team going up against this team as a mid-tier team, I would side very hard for the turbo, and I would be packing in Maxter shoots and a couple mine cons because you need every edge you can get, and this team does look like a turbo-focused team, so I would definitely consider doing that.
Yeah, very good point there as well. Moving on, returning org Masters of Oz, fresh off a top 8. Honestly, maybe even underperforming. They were I think they were the 4 seed going into the playoffs, so getting upset in the quarterfinals by Goolahz and the Damage Step Gang. But they are actually, interestingly to say, the only team, I think, in the entire league that is running it back with the exact same 8-person roster. Like I said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This is, I believe, the like more Australian-based team. It's not all Aussies, but definitely, at least the majority of the team is Australian or ANZ based. But some very, very solid players here. Also, front runner for Player of the Season, of course, the unofficial award, but Dueling High 101 has, I think what four or five world invites already this season, both from team events as well as single events. So this is definitely a star-studded roster. They had some solid success last season and are just trying to run it back with the exact same roster. Shifty, how do you think that plan is going to work out for them here in season 7?
Yeah, this one is very hard as well to determine where to put them because I think last season, I think it was the first time making playoffs, and they've got three obviously key pieces, which is Dueling High, Jesse, and Jace, three-star players there, which is a good core. Dueling High on top of the world right now, dominating everything. Yeah, it's a very tough one, and if you just give me a minute, let me just.
Yeah, I figured this was going to be kind of a tough one because very, honestly, kind of cruised the playoffs, but then dropped out relatively early. And the team is just so competitive, or the league is just so competitive this season. So a very static org where the rest of the league is getting better around them. Be interested to see kind of how that plays out.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but I'm gonna put them in the wild card tier. It's a
Be
bit harsh. It could have went either way, but I just got to follow my gut on this one.
Goolahz, what are your thoughts on these guys?
Uh, this is a tough team to rank. I feel like a lot of the players on this team, specifically Jesse, Jace, and Dueling High, are very strong players, very talented players. And I know I don't unfortunately don't know enough about Envoy of Chaos, but just want to shout him out because he had a great season as well. I think if I ran into any of these guys in a tournament, I honestly think it would be like 50-50. I could go either win or lose and not feel confident about whatever the result would be. I would never bet on the result. Um, there's also like this somehow there's this kind of this unofficial rivalry we've had with this team. We beat them in playoffs, and then we kind of ran into some of our damage members. Ran into them at the 3v3, and they managed to beat us. And then I just recently ran into Dueling High at the Atlanta tournament a couple days ago. So he's a fantastic player. I think adding him to the roster this last season was critical from getting them from not making the playoffs into being a strong team in the playoffs. I think they are going to be a playoff team. I think they're going to be towards the top of the playoff teams. My only concern is I don't know how strong their actual prep is because I want to say tournament play and War League play is just a little bit different, but I think I would be pretty shocked if they didn't make the playoffs, especially with having the current player of the year, or soon to be player of the year on their team.
All right.
For sure.
So Goolah's a little bit hotter on these guys than Shifty, but yeah, definitely. It's kind of funny because it's the exact same team as last season. So why would they be so hard to rank? But all of your guys' points make sense, right? Because they're kind of right on the bubble, and they feel like a pretty volatile team, right? Because they really, especially in the regular season, they run out the same 5 players almost every week, right? And then when you get to the playoffs and you need to dip into the roster for the 6th person who maybe hasn't had that much playtime, it kind of leaves it a bit of a question mark, bit of an asterisk there. But definitely lots of talent here, and would not be surprised to see them run it back to a playoff berth again in season 7, of course. Sweet. Moving on, Nemesis, our second Greek team, and as Shifty mentioned, also made top 8 last season. Very, very interesting, between season shakeup here, though. Losing who are probably most people would say their 2 best players in Evans, GR, and Maru. At least the records definitely suggest that. Filling it in with actually, I do believe the Nemesis guys are very hyped on these 2 players, and these are Greek local players. I think KC Philosopos actually just won GGP Athens a couple weeks ago, so definitely one of the better Greek players, at least in the local team or local scene. So some big shoes to fill, but definitely some very, very talented players. Goolahz, do you think these guys can run it back to the playoffs? Do you think they fall short? Do you think they go even further?
I like these guys a lot. I think they've got good chemistry as a team, but I think it just might be a little bit too hard to fill Maru and Evans GR's records. They're both fantastic players, and they add a little bit of diversity to the team that I think they need. Uh, it's kind of I think if they had them on their team, I think I would definitely keep them in potentially playoff contention. But I think just losing them it might be too much, and I'm gonna make them playoff unlikely.
All right, so dropping down from top 8 to C tier. Yeah, hard to fill those shoes, like we said. Shifty, what are your thoughts on these guys?
Yeah, the Greek team, great bunch of guys. I get on well with a lot of them. But losing the two best Greek players, that is a damning blow. And like you guys were saying, it's going to be hard to recover from that. Um, Bringing in two new players. I've seen KCF, yeah, he's pretty good. But those shoes are too big to fill, I believe. So I'm gonna say, yeah, I agree with Goolahz. I think they are going to be playoffs unlikely.
All right, move. Oh, yeah, sorry. Go over to Shifty. Yep, would love to see them prove us wrong, of course, but yeah, hard to fill those couple spots. All right, moving on. We've got a new org here, Other World. I guess a little bit of the remnants of Goated Dawn here with Nova Ethos, the captain, remaining, as well as Grace, who's a very, very solid warrior player. But besides that, roster of, I believe, almost completely rookies. Lubu is a name I recognize, but not sure if they've played in War League before. Shifty, do you have any more intel on these guys, and how do you think they're going to end up this season?
Uh, Not too much intel. I mean, Nova Ethos is a fantastic guy. He's got those great zombie decks. Grace, we all know Grace from his YouTube channel, and he's also a great warrior player. I think Poyo Ethos is actually Nova's wife, and the rest, I'm assuming they're just offline players who they play with IRL. So it's a brand new team. It's going to be hard to come into the War League and create an impact with an unknown roster, so to speak. So playoffs unlikely is fair in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely understand that one. Goolahz, how do you feel about this roster?
Yeah, I think from my understanding, a lot of these guys are very nice. Grace and Novitos, very nice people, but I think and good players. But I think sometimes they hold themselves back by playing some pretty off the wall stuff. I know Nova Ethos is a fan of brewing with some crazy zombie lists that can definitely be very strong, and he can definitely punch above what the I think the deck can do on average. And same with Grace with his Mystic Shine Balls and crazy Venus Brews, fairy decks. I think he can definitely punch above what they do on average. But I think just having those decks in the rotation kind of limit the ceiling of their players. And I have noticed that some of these players, I'm not 100% familiar with them, but I have noticed a few of them in like the other deck meta forums in the Discord. And I think this would be a fun team to watch. I think they're going to play some interesting stuff, and I would encourage them to continue playing. But I don't think this team will make playoffs. I think it's going to be playoff unlikely, and but definitely an exciting team to watch.
Yeah, and of course, we always want to encourage rookies, new folks to join the league because if you want to get better at GOAT, this is the place to do it. And you can have a lot of fun doing it as well. So, welcome to all these new folks and best of luck in season 7. So now we've got the other half of the Bones generation. As mentioned previously, our season 6 champions. Team has been split in two, and as Goolahz and Shifty has both said, I think a lot of people believe this to be the stronger of the two remaining rosters. I mean, look at these records, right? We've got Pot the Master, I think was definitely player of the season overall, especially including the crazy playoff run that he had in season 6. Tiso as well, the Prep Master, 9-3, very, very powerful warrior player. And I mean, look at some of these pickups that they've had, right? Soldier Penguin, 7-1 record on Goated Dawn. El Dulisto we talked about before as well. Very, very solid player. Yada 88, 7-3 record from 400s. I mean, these are some very, very, maybe not having the most tournament success, these folks, but definitely have proven that they're solid duelists in War League in recent seasons. Um, Goolahz, how do you feel how Bones Team 1 will perform in Season 7?
This is a great team. I think their preparation is going to be on point. I think a lot of these players are great players. I'm a little salty about Pot the Master. He had a crazy playoff season. I thought I was in a lock for at least, no matter what happens, getting that number one overall position. But he had that crazy match, crazy series against I think Bomb Squad last
Yeah,
season, where he
the
won like
semis.
4 or 5 in a row from against like incredible players. So I think he's definitely going to be a focal point and continue to be a strong asset. I think I'm a big fan of Yada 88's gameplay. He was on Underdogs with me, and I know he's a well-tested player, definitely an underrated player. I think he's going to continue to make a splash in the scene. I think he's going to definitely be a great aid to the team. I think, yeah, this is a contender team for sure.
Sounds good. Shifty, I feel like I have a guess as to what you're going to say, but I got to ask anyway. Where are these guys going to end up?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I was saying, they are the stronger of the two teams, in my opinion. They got Tiso, and in my opinion, Tiso is he's a top five volley player in the world, in my opinion. Soldier Penguin 21 with that awesome record 7-1, making it to the MVP Invitational, and Pot the Master. I just want to just take a second and give him a round of applause because that showing against Bombscott was world class. So I really enjoyed that. John Doe as well. He stays new. He's always been part of the Bones organisation, and he does play a lot of offline events, and he does tend to do very well in the Italian scene. And Eldulis, this guy, yeah, like you were saying, he's grinding the format library ladder. He's grinding events. He's really chasing to be as good as he can be. And he reminds me of myself a few years back, where he's just so hungry. And if you've got that hunger and desire, you can get there one day. Um, and obviously, the other pickups, Yat 88 and the Source, which Source is one of my good friends. I've been playing with him ever since season one, so we had to separate. He's not married, but he's still playing, and he was one of the MVPs in season one. And obviously P Epoxy, another one, a great guy. I never knew about that record before I picked him up, so I'm kind of regretting that right now. But he's a great guy, and yeah, he's a great guy. I love having interactions with him, and I would safely say these guys are title contenders.
All right, moving on. Ultra Instinct. New org, but definitely kind of the remnants of FGF from last season, captained by Bluetooth. A lot of returning players, a lot of well known names, although I think they definitely underperformed compared to expectations last season. You can see some of the not so great records from some of these players who are definitely, veterans in the scene. A few new pickups as well. We've got Gibbonation coming over from Birdcage, as well as I believe some rookies here in Role Model, AJ Hussein, Crash Volt. Yeah, FGF, I believe they bubbled the playoffs last season just due to tiebreakers. I think they finished 6-4, and it was just because of tiebreakers that they didn't make it. So definitely like the quintessential wild card bubble last team. But Shifty, how do you think these guys will perform next season?
Yeah, I mean, the UI Ultra Instinct organization has been around for some time. They've had a few seasons off, and it looks like they've got back together. He's taken over that organization, it seems, and Slevin, I think one of the more, yeah, very underrated player. He's very good. Doesn't get the credit he deserves. The two new guys, Role Model and they're just Role Model and Next. I don't know much about those two, so I can't really comment. Gibby's been in the scene for a very long time with his turbo deck. AJ Hussein as well. He says new, but he's far from new. He's a very, very, very good player. Crashfall as well. All these guys are veterans, and Indoors as well. One of my UK brothers. Yeah, I think I'm just remembering that. I remember them having a stronger team in the previous seasons, and they never made playoffs. So I think I would put them on the bubble. So I would put them in the wild card hopeful tier.
Pretty similar roster to last time, where the exact same thing happens. Goolahz, do you think they'll fare any differently?
Uh, not particularly. I think yeah, this team was around before I even started playing, so I don't know a ton about their history. But I think Bluetooth is going to be a good leader. I think, like you said, Splevin probably one of the most underrated players in Go format. I think definitely slept on. He already has his invite for the season, but he's definitely a player that I've played against and he's cooked me before. So definitely don't want to run into him. I know I know AJ Hussein and Crashful can definitely be tough opponents as well. So I'm in the same boat as you. I think they're going to be wild card hopefuls, but if they go a little beyond, I wouldn't be surprised.
Sounds good. All right, B tier team with some upside. Love to see it. All right, moving on. New org here, all new faces, at least to me. I didn't recognize any of these duelists. Under Mathematician, funky name too, not sure what that means. But looks like a group of rookies. Goolahz, thoughts on these guys?
I don't know a lot about these players. The only name that I recognize, I think, is Riki. I think he's an Edison player, so maybe this is a whole nother Edison team that's just trying out Goat for the first time. I think, from my understanding, he's a very good Edison player, from what I've heard, but I don't know anything about Edison, so maybe that's like a complete lie. um, yeah, I've got not a ton to work with here, so I'm just gonna make them playoff unlikely, but maybe they have some additional experience with Yu-Gi-Oh, and maybe they'll make wild cards.
Sounds good. A dark horse for sure.
Yeah.
Shifty. Any more intel from your side?
Yeah, actually, I've got a bit of intel. I did reach out to their captain, Sean Killian, just to give us some information. So he's been kind enough to do that. I'll just go through it real quick. So he's just said that they don't really play Goat format too much, but they're very knowledgeable at the game in general. So that's going to help them. And he's just given me a little brief overview of each player. So he's put Sean Killian, decent. He's put himself a decent. He's put Toast. Probably one of the best Iron Man players of all time, so he had to recruit him. Ricky is the best Edison player of all time, apparently, so that's something.
It's pretty good.
Shure, yeah. Played with him in wars in the past, consistently swept teams. Wow, that's quite something. Perfect victory. He used to play Iron Mans with him. He kind of slowed down a little bit. Omen YouTube. He's friend of five. He's been his friend for 5 years, so very trusted player. Mizura used to be way more active in money match scene, overall good player. And Axel, similar to Shureg, played with him in wars in the past, very good all-round player. And I went on and I asked him, "What's your goal for the season?" And it was a one-word answer: to win it. So there you go.
Love it, love it, love it.
So brilliant! It got me kind of excited now. It's always good to see Edison players try gold format. But we don't have XYZs, we don't have ABCs, we don't have pendulums, we don't have synchro. So it's going to be interesting. But yeah, despite that, the article he sent me, it's not going to be enough to sway me. So I'm going to say playoff on that.
I was like, oh, I hope Shifty does some crazy hot take and at least put some B tier, but no, even after all that, still gonna be playoff unlikely. But yeah, like you said, lots of apparently very talented players in other formats, and Yu-Gi-Oh skills definitely can translate across formats. So definitely lots of upside. And hey, if they can stick around for multiple seasons, maybe these guys will end up being some of the stronger GOAT players around. Goolahz, with all that additional information about the team, would you like to revise your tier at all?
No, I think I think I will say one thing though. I think they might surprise us and they might be wild card hopefuls, or I could honestly see a team that only plays like other formats get Trinity a bunch the first week or two, and then say like this format is kind of trash, and then crash out. So that's definitely an option. So I'm gonna keep them at playoff unlikely.
Sounds good. Yeah. Cool. Love it, love it. All right, moving on. Snow Goats here. So this is an interesting one, because I do recognize some of these names. I think this is a lot of like online, like maybe DB ladder grinders, things like that. Like guys like Red Daddy, Luka Pavlovich, I think I've seen on ladder as well. But outside of that, looks like they're all completely new to War League specifically. Shifty, have you reached out to these guys? What do you know?
Yeah,
What's the scoop?
yeah. This group, yeah, I reached out actually to the captain, Turkey Wagio. Unfortunately, there was no response, so nothing to report back. But I have been told that they are an Edison team also, so um, yeah, they're going to be converted over to goats, give it a go. And without extended article on how good they are, I can really, yeah.
Fair.
So yeah, we'll be putting them in playoffs unlikely.
That is fair enough. But yeah, really cool to see some of the other teams from other formats getting interested in goats. I think the scene is growing and we have a lot to offer, honestly. So pretty awesome. Goolahz. You know any of these guys personally? What are your thoughts?
I have actually ran into Red Daddy a couple times on the ladder, so I think he plays a decent amount of goat. I don't know how strong he's going to be in War League. I do know Pudding is a fairy player in Edison, and when I played like a couple games in Edison, I did look up some of their lists, so they seem pretty competent from what I've seen. I don't know how it's going to translate to goat, but I'm gonna make them playoff unlikely, but I am hopeful that they enjoy the format, and then maybe I'm hopeful they surprise me because I think there's a lot of potential here, and it would be great to see more Edison players play more Goat and see what their thoughts on, and maybe they'll add to the meta that we haven't thought about just from having that different perspective.
Yeah, love to have a diverse format of opinions. Totally agree with that. And excited that them and Undermath Petition are joining and trying out what we've got going on over here. All right, only have a couple teams left here, or three, I think exactly. Here we got Stein Maxing. So this is also a really interesting one. A lot of names I recognize. I think these are lots of experienced GOAT players, just specifically outside of War League, or maybe have played in seasons past and are returning. Mr. Big Noodle is definitely an online event grinder. Angel Valentinov won the first PWCQ of this season, so going to be seeing him in the World Championship later on this year. Yami Dan, I know, is a GGP grinder as well. David Hume, up and coming kind of rookie that I've seen a lot. Joe Frazier is a DB ladder grinder. JJ Stokes has been around the scene for a while. So lots of probably familiar names to a lot of GOAT format players, but combining it all for the first time here in War League under Mr. Big Noodle's captaincy. How do we see this one go in this season, Goolahz?
Uh, this is an interesting team. This one's actually kind of tough to rank. You can just tell by their name that they're gonna play like Stein. They're gonna zing you. They're gonna play all these like weird off the wall decks that I can definitely see a lot of people underrating this team and saying that they're not gonna play any meta decks, so it's gonna have an easy time. But those Stein decks, they can just like destroy you sometimes. And even if you're playing the best deck in the meta, you get blown out by like a blowback dragon, and then you just want to quit playing for the day. So I can see this team pulling off a lot of upsets. I think they're going to be I think they're going to be a what is that? A wild card contender.
B tier sounds good.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. All right, brand new team, but looking to get into the playoffs. Shifty, do you feel any differently?
Yeah, I think a lot of these players they've been pottering around. They've been playing a bit of goats. I've seen their name crop up, but I don't think any of them have really made that splash onto the scene as established players. Maybe Mr. Big Noodles made a bit of noise in the obelisk, etc. But overall, I don't think I don't see any of these players as standout players at the moment. So just based on that, I think it's borderline. I think they definitely could be wild card, but I'm leaning more towards playoff unlikely.
Totally fair. Yeah. Sweet. All right, B from Goolahz, C from Shifty, and we are moving on, folks. All right, two teams left. We've got Team Canada. Very interestingly named, considering we do have a lot of Canadian players on other rosters. But I assume this is probably some local scene in Canada. Prefacing this with, I do not recognize any of these names. Likely a team of rookies, but Shifty, you seem to be the man to go to for these unknown teams for the most part. So, what do you think about these folks?
Yeah, I mean they're definitely not they're not rookies. I can tell you that. I mean, they've been playing for the first 4 seasons, and they've always been in the mix for playoffs, and they're always one of those teams where you do not want to play them. I know a lot of these guys, great guys. They're basically a Canadian team, and they're a bunch of financial advisors or whatever it is, and they just load Dueling Book and they load the same deck every time, Turbo, whatever it is, and they just get results. So they on paper, all these players are very capable. But the only issue I have is their prep. I don't think they prep very much. They just load the same list every week, which obviously can be quite predictable. But they do have the skill, so it's a tough one. But I'm gonna say B tier.
Cool. All right. And yeah, a little bit of egg on my face there for not knowing any of those guys, but I am newer to the scene, so I'll take that one in stride.
Sorry, they were formerly known as the Chaos Kings. So
okay, cool. Yes, I have seen that around. That makes
yeah.
sense. Cool. Yeah. So yeah, it looks like they're coming back into the league here after maybe a brief hiatus, but yeah, definitely seems to be some talented players. Goolahz, thoughts on Team Canada?
Yeah, I mean, it says new all around, but these guys are veterans of the game. I've definitely played against some of these guys, and I know they're a solid team. They were in playoffs in season 5. I think I can see them just make playoffs again. I agree with Shifty that I don't think the preparation is going to be all there, but I think these guys have been playing with each other so long they have like such great chemistry. So I think maybe it's just good enough to get them to the playoffs.
A tier from Goolahz, and they'll run it back from their season 5 performance. But yeah, Shifty thinking maybe season off is going to make them a little rusty and drop into wild card, but definitely possibility for playoff there. All sounds good to me. And we have one remaining team, and this is Team Virtue, the Apoptosis org, renamed, I guess, a little bit from Promised Kings, who were not a playoff team last year, but definitely did win some games. Some familiar faces here for sure. 7ZZ, Lorenzo, all coming back from the Promised Team org. They do have some pretty major pickups here in Lucas and the King 86. Definitely two very talented and well-known duelists. So kind of an interesting org with some interesting pickups. Goolahz, how do you feel about these folks and their chances in season 7?
This team is kind of funny because I feel like this org always is like a ship of thesis. Like they always like replace like half the roster every season with new players. But it's I think overall their players, I want to say the roster is just like a little bit weaker than it was from 2 seasons ago when they qualified.
When you were on the
no
team,
bias
or...
yeah. Yeah, the team. But they were 2-7 last season. I think they're going to be better than 2-7 this season. To be honest, I think Lucas is a strong player. I'm just curious what his activity is going to be this season. I think if he puts his mind to it, he's going to be one of the top players in the league. But I don't know if he's going to be all in on GOATs this season. My guess is probably not. I'm going to make them probably unlikely, playoff unlikely.
All right. C tier for Team Virtue. Shifty, feel any differently?
I mean, the name that stands out is Lucas, and I mean, Apop, the king of clowns. He must have been done some good tricks to get him on board. I don't know what he's been doing, but he's got Lucas, which he was one of the best players he's one of the best players of all time. So I'm just I'm a bit curious about his position, because if he was a free agent and he wanted to join the team and be active, he probably would have put his name out there. He would have, but he hasn't done that. So it looks like a last minute pickup. So I'm not too sure about Goolahz there. The other player that stands out is Spoky Flaring. Obviously, he was a very dominant warrior player a few years ago. The King is also a decent turbo player. Good team, decent team. I'm gonna say playoff unlikely.
Playoff unlikely. All right.
Yeah.
Double C from both you guys, and that is going to round out our tier list for today, our preseason. I guess we can do one last look at the tiers we have here. So, Shifty, how do you feel about your overall tier list? Was there anything you would like to change before we
So
call it quits here?
you know what? Move Virtue up, please.
Virtue up. All right. All right.
Oh,
Big moves. Wildcard hopeful is the Lucas team.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I think that's okay now. I'm happy with that.
Sweet. All right. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate your insight and, your vast knowledge of the War League lore. Always a pleasure having you on, man.
Yeah, it's all good. I enjoy this type of content. It's one of my favorites, so I had a blast doing this.
All right. Goolahz, last chance to make any last minute changes to your tier list here.
I mean, I think it looks pretty good to me. If I could put it like an S plus tier, I'd obviously put damage step. but
Just make the font a little
unfortunately, we're
bigger.
not doing that. I think it's going to be an exciting season. I think a lot of these positions make sense to me. I think a lot of these top teams they're either super stacked with talent or they're led by some very brilliant minds. So or a combination of both. So it's definitely going to be exciting to watch all these games.
Awesome. Yeah. And thank you for joining as well. I know you've had quite the travel over the last couple of days, so appreciate you making the time for this today.
No, anytime. Happy to do this content. It's entertaining content for sure.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, thank you so much, guys. I will call it here. And yeah, really appreciate it again. And good luck in season 7. And may the best duelist win.
No doubt.
Thank
Yeah. Yeah. It's been awesome working with you guys. Thanks a lot, and looking forward to the vid.
100%.
Awesome. Thanks.